Hi, my name's Lori Westphal and welcome to my first video blog. I know that there's lots of bloggers out there, they do a lot of good stuff, and I started a blog, gosh, when was it? Maybe a year ago, and if you've ever looked at my blog, there's probably 3 posts on it. I haven't been very consistent in posting my blogs. So what I've decided to do instead is to start a video blog. I figure that if I put it out there, it would just be much more consistent on my part, just because as a writer you do tend to write, rewrite, and you're never quite happy with it. Now, not that I'm necessarily going to be happy with the video blog, but it's super easy. I just hit stop, re-record, and we can do it again. But I'm more likely to just figure I'll just go ahead and keep talking, and they can fast forward through the parts that they don't want to hear. Because I do staff development quite a bit, this is a little bit better medium, hopefully, for me to be able to talk to you. So, since this is my initial video blog, and I'm practicing all of my camera techniques and all of this type of thing, all of my editing techniques, I figured that I'd tell you a little bit about me, just because that way you'll know who it is that you're listening to. I know that there's a lot of information educationally, etc. out there, and some of it comes from theorists who have no practical classroom experience. Some come from people who have been in the classroom for 2 or 3 years. And as a teacher, I always wondered, okay, and especially, by the way, as a secondary teacher, I always wondered, all right, have you ever worked with my students? Because if you haven't, no offense, but you need to before I'm really going to believe you. So I wanted to introduce myself, tell a little bit about myself. My blog, I've decided, has the focus of differentiation. The name of the blog, of course, is Let's Talk Differentiation, and on YouTube, my channel is Daily Differentiation. Differentiation is one of those buzzwords, and there are a lot of theories out there, and there are a lot of people who have theories, but it's not necessarily practical. My main focus in the blog that I'm going to be doing is about practical differentiation. I found myself in positions in the classroom where I had to differentiate before differentiation was really a tool or a word that we referred to. So I feel like I lived it, and now there's a word that I can kind of place on it. The same with the menus, by the way, that I'll talk about in a minute. I used them before that term ever existed. So I know a lot of you as teachers, you look at it and go, oh, yeah, I do that. That's what we're talking about. So, a little bit about me. As I mentioned, Lori Westphal, name. I'm originally from Michigan. All my Michigan people, here's my map. My hometown is Roscommon, right here in the very middle. Very small town. My graduating class at 104. And I went to school in Grand Valley State University. Luckily, Grand Valley State has had some football success, so people actually may know where Grand Valley is now. But it's right near Grand Rapids. Majored in Spanish and group science with an emphasis in chemistry. My minor was elementary education. Sorry, that's my dryer going off, and I'm just going to keep on going because we're being flexible. If you heard that. Anyway, my minor was elementary education. In Michigan, they will not let you major in education. You have to major in a content, which actually I greatly support, because that way your teachers have some serious content information before they go into the classroom. So, minor in elementary education. My very first teaching position was in Monterrey, Mexico, at an American school. I taught 5th and 6th grade science. What's funny is in 9th grade, I told my mom that I was going to teach in Mexico. That was my goal. And I cannot believe that that actually was my very first teaching position. Now, of course, I'm very goal-driven, so you'll hear me mention some things later where if I have a goal, I'm going to make it happen if I possibly can. So my very first position, 5th and 6th grade science, taught in Monterrey for 3 years. After that, I went to Brazil and taught in Porto Alegre, an American school there, and I taught 4th through 10th grade, science, math, Estudios Sociais, which had to be taught in Portuguese, and you'll notice there was no degree mentioned in Portuguese. You got to catch on. There goes that dryer again. Oh my gosh, that should be it, I promise. And art. And I know that any art teacher who's had me in the past is cringing at the idea that I actually had to teach art, but that's just what happened. The school where I was in Brazil was a very small school. We had around 110 students K through 12, K through 10 actually the years that I was there. And that put me in a position where although I may have had only 12 students per class, that actually was grades 4 through 10 in that one class. And this was my first real exposure to differentiation, because I really did not want to have to do individualization. I really didn't think that that was good, that the students all got cornered off and they all did their own little thing. I wanted to be able to do activities where they could interact with each other, but it would still be appropriate. And my 10th graders would get what they need, and my 4th graders would get what they need, but yet we could have some interaction. And that's when I first started designing and coming up with activities and strategies that I could do to meet all of those students' needs. That being said, now I know, by the way, that was called differentiation. So as we go through and I do all different kinds of video blogs for you all, know that it's coming from the idea that I had to live it and do it, and that's part of why I was there. My school decided after the 2 years that I was there, they were going to downsize to a K through 4 school, so I really needed to find another position because mine had been disbanded. So I went to Philadelphia, National Science Teachers Conference, and interviewed with Kay Wheeler. I don't know if she'll ever see this. Interviewed with Kay Wheeler. She was a science department chair at a middle school here, and they hired me to come work in Houston at a middle school. So I came back here and spent a total of 9 years at that middle school. I taught 8th grade for 2 years, went to 6th grade science, then went back to teach IPC, Integrated Physics and Chemistry. I was one of the 2 people in the school who actually had a chemistry degree, so I was allowed to teach that class. It was advanced level, gifted, and really was a 9th grade class brought to 8th grade. And that was a true love of mine. I really enjoyed those students. I really enjoyed the content. I got to make such a difference. Everything was product driven. We started a unit with a project, and then we had our rubric and everything built into it, and the students were really excited. And I still see students today who recognize me. Of course, I don't change very much, but you know them, anywhere from pink to purple hair to looking normal. So unless they have a name tag, sometimes I have trouble recognizing them. But they will come up to me and I'll say, what do you remember most? And as an 8th grader, they can usually name 2 to 3 things that we did, if not more. And as someone looking at the video blog, I challenge you, think about your 8th grade year. And can you name your teachers' names, and could you name any activities that you did? Because 8th grade is that year where the hormones take over, and teachers that are remembered either made a really bad impression or they made a really good impression with the activities that they did. So to me, it's a great compliment that my students can remember it. So anyway, taught IPC, and after about 8 years at that junior high, 12 years, 13 years of teaching, they pulled me in December to go work in the gifted office as what they called a helping teacher, master teacher, instructional specialist, whatever you want to call it. Basically, you go and then you go out and work with teachers and help them plan, help them design lessons. And I wanted to do the position because I felt that if I worked with other teachers, I could have an even bigger impact on more students. Because in my junior high, I was impacting 150, 160 a year. But if I could work with teachers who worked with students, that number could go into the thousands. And I know that sounds altruistic, and it sounds like one of those things that only people put on a book bio or whatever, but I truly believe it. And that's why I was doing what I was doing. And to give you an idea, I would have been happy had I gotten the position. I would have been happy to stay in the classroom. They told me the day before Christmas break that on January 3rd I would report to the central office, and they told me that morning, like half an hour before my first class. And it was one of those things where my children thought that somebody in my family had died, because I'm walking in and I tried to tell them, and I'm crying, and I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, what a loon. But I mean, really, it was one of those things where I'm going, okay, I've just finally got you trained, and I finally got you thinking. And the second semester is always kind of that nice, wonderful time where, they know the expectations and they know what you want, and they really flourish, and I was going to be leaving them. So even then, it wasn't like, oh, thank goodness I'm out of here. So I went to go work in the gifted office. I worked there for 2.5 years, the half year, obviously, and then 2 more. And what ended up happening was I had started doing some presentation at conferences for gifted. And I went to like the science conference and did a session on gifted, or a short course on gifted. And in the audience, people would be there and they'd come up and say, hey, would you, is it even an option for you to come talk to our district? And I thought, okay, right now I'm impacting my district, but if I could impact my district and another district, that's even more exponential students. I'm like, well, let's see what we can work out. And I did that for about 1.5 years, and it was getting to the point where I had so many requests to go work with other districts that not that my district was suffering and I had plenty of days, but I began to feel like I was torn between the two, and I really needed to kind of make a decision. So I came up with a 3-year plan of the number of districts I would need to be talking to, etc., etc. And after 2 years, the plan had come to fruition. And I had submitted some books to Proof Rock Press for publishing. They had been accepted. And it was at the point where I decided, okay, I'm ready to go out on my own. So now when people talk to me, they say, okay, what do you do? Or you go through those applications, if you want to use an online thing, it says your job title. I'm going, okay, well, so I do educational consultant / author / teacher / tutor, because I do have students that I see every week as a private tutor. It's something I started 11 years ago, and I still continue to do. I continue to see about 20 to 25 students a week for tutoring, and it's wonderful to be able to still work with students. So I'm now an educational consultant, and let me tell you, it can be kind of scary, because the other people that I meet who do what I do tend to have other sources of income, meaning perhaps they've already gone through their years of teaching and now they have their retirement coming in, and they still want to work with students, they still want to work with teachers, they have lots of experience, so they become speakers. Some have other jobs, or they're still teaching and they choose to become a consultant. I just kind of stepped right out there and said, I'm just going to do this. So that's what I did. And I've been doing it now since 2006, and it's now 2012. So I must be doing something right, in the sense that I still have people calling for me to speak, I still get referrals, all of that kind of good stuff. Of course, the books, they help a lot. I mentioned earlier in 2006 that I'd already submitted manuscripts for 4 books. It was for the Differentiation Instructions with Menu series, grades 3 through 6 at the time. And they sold so well that they allowed me to do a 6 through 9 series and a K through 2. And then after that, some ready-to-use differentiation strategies and science books. And I'm really happy that as of 2012, we have a companion series coming out called Differentiate Instruction in the Inclusive Classroom. Differentiate Instruction with Menus in the Inclusive Classroom. That's its whole title. But basically what it is it's menus for special ed and on-level, because the original series was for gifted. And it's just such a testament. I mean, people come by, if I'm doing a conference, I'm doing a booth, people come by, oh my gosh, you're the author and you've made such a difference. And it's one of those things where you write books, you put things out there, and you just hope that it makes a difference. And apparently they are. And my publisher must be pretty darn happy, since we now have the new series. And I mentioned that I was goal driven, and I mentioned 9th grade. In 8th grade, I told Mr. Reichert, he was our 8th grade language arts teacher, that I was going to write 1 book, just one. That was my goal in life. And as of 2013, I will have over 30. And I'll still be looking for other things to write about. It's a true passion. Differentiation and sharing the information with teachers. So that's part of why I feel bad about my whole my whole blogging experience, in the sense that I'm like, okay, I could really share information with teachers, and I'm not doing a good enough job. So hopefully this video blogging thing is going to solve that problem, because, and I'm not saying that I'm the be-all, end-all, know-all, but if I know something, I want to be able to share it with teachers, and this is just another avenue that I would be able to do that. So as of now, 2012, where am I now? I'm still living in Houston. I do staff development. I'm obviously got books in the works. I'm tutoring students. And the bottom line of all of this is, when we start looking at some of the ideas that I'm going to share with you, this is probably the longest video that I'm going to be posting, because I know as teachers, you don't have time to sit down and watch some big old show unless it's for enjoyment. You just don't have time for that. And the short snippets that are meaningful, that are practical, that have immediate application, that's really what you need. I know it, you know it, everybody tells me so. So that's what this blog is going to focus on. Short, sweet things you can use, and hopefully things that are going to be low preparation. One of the most frustrating things that I've had to sit through, I know you have too as a teacher, is going to a session and prepping for 45 minutes for a 5-minute activity. That's just, for me, I just don't have time to do that. And I don't know about you, but I'm assuming as teachers, you don't have time either. So we're going to focus on practical, realistic, just quick, short things that you can do. The other thing I'd ask you to do, and I'm going to ask at the end of every single video blog that I do, is if questions come to mind on something that I've said, or if you have questions on anything at all, well, not anything, questions on education or gifted or differentiation, post it as a comment. And this is something I see being very fluid. I know a lot of people, they do their shows and they have something specific. I want it to be, you have a question, ask me. I get emailed questions all the time and I always respond to my emails, but I'm probably going to start taking some of those questions and making video blogs. Just because if that person has the question, how many other people have it? So if you have questions, comment on it and we'll do it. That's just going to be what it is. And I'm already kind of making a list of what's going to be there. Some of the upcoming blogs, just so you know, how to do what I do. I get asked that all the time. And it's not for everybody, but that one might be longer than 5 minutes, but how to do what I did or how to do what I do. Happy to tell you about that. I'm going to do a whole lot of differentiation strategies for you. Short, quick, easy things that you can do. If you've gone to my staff development, you will have heard of some of these. I'm also going to do something with the menus because the 2 books are coming out. I'm going to talk about the differences between the 2 books. And I know, not everybody reads the front pages of those menu books. So I'm going to give you some of the intros for that too. And I've had people say they've read it and they still didn't get the same thing just hearing me say it. So this is what it's all about. And I'm actually really excited about the video blog. So hopefully you'll follow me. I know that's an appropriate term. Hopefully you'll follow me. Ask questions. We'll get questions answered. I'm just looking forward to this whole process. I hope you're having a great day. I need to come up with some tagline. I don't know. I'll come up with a good tagline for the end of all of my blogs. But in the meantime, it's just going to have to be thanks, and I hope you're having a great day.